Well, first of all, big thanks to Tom again from bigpictureskiing.com, who sent me his 6-year-old son's t-shirt so my biceps would look big. Thanks again, Tom. Well, let's get straight on to talking about instructors. Well, I think it's probably easier for me to first give you some red flags as to who you should avoid. It's always easy to criticize, isn't it? So if you get an instructor or a coach that as soon as you meet him and you're telling him about yourself and what experience you've got, and he tends to spend his time shaking his head and questioning everything that you've been told previously by instructors, then he's probably not the guy for you. And I see this a lot in skiing. Coaches criticizing other coaches to make them look like they've got some sort of magic or secret that no other person knows in the ski industry. Let's face it, if you were in the medical profession, you don't hear doctors bad-mouthing another doctor, do they? They tend to remain professional about this when they hear something. So be aware of coaches that have this air about them, thinking they know something nobody else knows. I just mentioned, there Tom's name, for example, from bigpictureskiing.com. Now, Tom and I speak to each other regularly and share ideas, and because of that, we are trying to assist each other as opposed to trying to get one over each other, which is a red flag. The other red flag you want to watch for is the instructor or coach who just tends to ski way beyond your ability. And this brings me on to something as I'm talking about that you don't want to be selecting your coach or skier through the internet's social media channels like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. Because obviously they're posting themselves skiing at high end, but they're not posting themselves coaching at high end, are they? Because that would look boring in one sense. So they tend to just show off their skiing. And I find this strange because people I have seen have decided to connect with a coach that doesn't even speak their language. And in fact, they don't really have a common language between them. And I'll say, why did you do that? Well, he's such a good skier. So is Marshall Hirscher a great skier, but I don't know whether he's a great coach. So it's really important that you don't just base your choice of instructor or coach upon their level of skiing. What you want is something that you can buy into, that you find they have a balance between being able to, often do clean demonstrations, but more importantly, that they're able to explain the feelings, the sensations, and also identify what is the cause of something in your skiing and not just see the effect and complain because you're falling inside or you're getting caught rotating or whatever it may be. We want to know, and we want a coach that can tell us why is that happening and what is the chain of events. And I know it's hard sometimes, but 95% of you will never ever get to the level that these guys are skiing at. Why? Because it brings me to another point. Fitness, strength, conditioning, agility, coordination, all these things, they're so important at that level of skiing. One of my trainers said something to me when he was training for his level 3, and he's now got his level 4, and he said, I remember you telling me there's a level that people can reach before they need to hit the gym. Look, hitting the gym doesn't mean you have to hit big weights or these Olympic lifts. I could be just talking about stability exercises, mobility exercises, general strength and conditioning, movement pattern work that could be really helpful for ski tension, for example, the ability to hold your ankle in tension in dorsiflex when you transfer from one turn to the other. These sort of things is still something that can be tackled in the dry land. As well as fitness, you also need to understand that some instructors, of course, will claim that they don't go into the gym. And maybe they don't even do another sport, I don't know. But there is a reason behind that, and that is normally they're the instructors who are local. They live and they've been born in the mountains on ski resorts. They've been skiing since they were 2 or 3 years old. And it's just like you speaking your own mother tongue. It's just automatic to them. And in one sense, that almost makes it difficult for them to have an emotional contact with people who can't do something that they see as just a basic function of life, being able to slide on these skis. And I see that a lot of frustration sometimes with people who have been born on skis, and that does make a difference. So never ever be chasing the unrealistic goal. And again, it sounds terribly negative because yeah, you want to push yourself to your own psychological and physical tolerances, but you don't want to be going beyond that because you think you should be to ski like somebody else who really, they're skiing every single day of the winter season, and the winter season in the Southern Hemisphere. And if you ask any world-class coach, I can guarantee they will not, they may have favoured one sport in the coaching industry, but they, outside of that, probably have a wealth of knowledge that they can bring into that one sport. And this is important because when we're teaching as instructors and trainers, we need to be able to use analogies from other parts of life. And often, because we're talking skiing, we'll try to map that into something that somebody can connect with their rugby player, their Olympic lifting, their understanding of biking, horse riding, whatever it might be. We'll want to use analogies like that to make them understand the movement patterns that perhaps they're already acquainted with and how they can fit into their skiing. From the side of looking at the traditional side of coaching, so we obviously still have coaches in the game that were born in the 60s or 70s, 80s, and they're still teaching. Are they the better coaches? Well, maybe yes, if they have stayed in touch with the developments from old school to new school. So skiing fundamentals are the same, but there is a new approach to how we teach that. And this is where you need to make sure you haven't ended up with a ski coach that is stuck in the past. And we see this a lot with associations, for example. And not to badmouth associations, because I understand why sometimes they're stuck in the past. It's because they're busy trying to deal with the present, the mass amount of new instructors coming through their system, trying to keep updating books and material. It just can't do that. And as a result, they're sometimes a little bit behind where the industry's moving. We can compare this with something like Adobe. Now, I'm sure most of you know what Adobe Photoshop is, or Lightroom. And if you look at how they've developed their software over the years, it's meant that it's much easier to do some tasks that used to take a long time to do. So for example, if I wanted to in some way mask out a photograph of a skier, take that subject and superimpose him onto a steeper run, for example, I can do that. 5-10 years ago, for example, it would involve a lot of masking out and drawing accurately around the skier and his shadow. Nowadays, we can simply choose to select a subject, such as a person, and the algorithm will automatically find that object and mask it out. But it's taken something that could take an hour or 2 hours to be in 1 minute or 2 minutes. But what they haven't done is they haven't actually took out the old method of doing the photograph, i.e. using the very old school method of drawing around each individual part of a person. Instead, they left that there. And many people will still use that method when they want to change the sky or change the background of something, instead of actually being aware that there's now this new way of doing it and it takes literally 2 minutes. And this is the problem with ski coaching as well. It's fine to have your roots in tradition, understanding, gravity hasn't changed. But at the same time, what we have to do as old school coaches is we have to keep modernizing. We have to be like the Madonna of skiing. We have to keep thinking what's new and not be stale or not be shutting down new school mythology. That's the coach you want. You want the coach who understands what the tradition was, but he now understands there are sometimes quicker ways to do things. Why? Because equipment is different. Why? Because we understand the brain differently and how the flow gene works and how we can accelerate the learning process. Indeed, Ericsson said it takes 10 years to master something, like a skill of being the best tennis player in the world, a good football player, good at your own job. Maybe you think. Probably took you 10 years to get good at what you do. But nowadays, we know there are ways to shortcut that. And we can take people and accelerate them through the program. It is important that you have depth of knowledge, but at the same time, it's important that you remain current. And when I say current, that's the next issue that you see a lot. A lot of ski instructors, for example, they barely work 3 months out of the 12-month year within the ski industry. The rest of the time, they may be doing another job, farming, building, banking, I don't know. There's not many coaches that are actually 12 months absorbed in skiing and snowboarding. It's quite difficult to do that. Obviously, I am, and many other people in my position are, because we're running training academies and it is our only job. But that means in the small off periods that I might have, I am renewing and refreshing ideas, and I do see the importance of constantly putting myself back in the position as a student and trying to develop new skills that may help my ability to teach and do things like this online. In conclusion, when selecting your instructor or trainer, one thing I can promise you is if they can't explain it simply, then they don't really understand it. So find somebody who can, yes, take their knowledge of mechanics, form, technique, but they can put that in a simple way that you can digest and you can act upon. It's all well and good stringing together sentences that sound clever, but what we need is coaches that can hit the nail on the head and get you skiing better. I hope this video has helped a little bit for you to get a grasp and an understanding of how to find the right person for you in your future skiing career. If you need any more information, comment below and I'll get back to you with our next video. See you soon.